obviously you're not a golfer.
I must have drank me about 15 Dr. Peppers.
Congratulations. How do you feel?
I gotta pay.
We have heard the chimes at midnight, Master Romeo.
You're an inanimate fucking object! You told I'm coming! And hell's coming with me, you hear? Who the fuck has the goddamn gall to call his house on a Tuesday night? God!
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another week of 3 for 3. We are in our Once Upon a Time special, in which we bring 3 movies, aptly starting with Once Upon a Time. We have Sam's pick, which is Once Upon a Time in China, Jackson's pick, which is Once Upon a Time in Mexico, and my pick, which is Once Upon a Time in America. Do you not like the movie?
I love the movie. The movie made me feel like gutter trash.
Yeah.
And it really made yesterday hard to wake up and go about my day.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, when I saw you posted a review of some other movie saying I needed to take a break from the heavy movie I was watching, I was like, well, this one's getting to Sam, I can tell.
I mean,
can
I
see
was
why.
not expecting it to be so fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
anyone
warned
would.
us, and so I was a
did.
little bit
We all
prepared.
slipped. And
When you
dealt
said
with
brutal,
it.
I thought it was going to be like brutal isn't like the violence. I mean, there's violence, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
Do we want to start with that one?
I don't know if we want to get it out of the way. I mean, it seems like we kind of did. If that's okay
Yeah.
with you guys, because that's
that'll
yeah.
work for me.
yeah. So, Once Upon a Time in America was my pick, directed by Sergio Leone, starring a whole bunch of people: Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci shows
James
up for a
Woods.
second, huh?
Poopy face James Woods.
Yep. Oh my God. Great performances by everyone.
Elizabeth fucking
Tuesday
McGovern.
Weld.
That's right.
Oh my God, Elizabeth.
Lady Grantham.
So the movie is about pretty much the rise of these 2 friends who become, from childhood to adulthood, really late adulthood, uh, and their rise to, fame and wealth in the gangster world is kind of a simplification of, not kind of, it's a very oversimplified version of that. I did not expect the movie to have the structure that it did. It definitely jumped around, and I did not expect that at all.
I think like the first flashback is like 40 minutes long almost, and so I like completely like detached. And then it went right back into the 60s and then the 30s and then back down to the 20s, and I was like, oh jeez.
This is The Irishman before The Irishman.
Yeah.
But no, this was a really great movie. It's 3 hours and 49 minutes long.
Could be
Uh,
longer.
it could be longer. Yeah. Could
Though
be
I'm
10.
sure they probably burned whatever the 9-hour cut was.
I wish they hadn't, but because they
Okay.
could have at least released that like, later on. But
I read that he got it down to 6 and at 6 hours, and he was going to split it into 2 movies, and then they were like, no.
I read
yeah.
that the
And they made it.
final actual assembly cut he wanted to release was about 4.5 hours, and like of the super crucial stuff. So that's like they cut about 45 minutes out from what I've heard, and that's what I
At
want to
least.
see.
Yeah, because like I feel like there is stuff that kind of just happens and you're like, what? Or like they don't really quite get explained, but I'm sure it was longer. And it's like I just want to see that. But I thought it was a great movie.
Never
It's
known a motherfucker to fake his death that many times and still get away with it.
I know. And it's like again, it's like weird because again, I didn't expect it. I kind of expected it to be more of a straightforward gangster flick, and instead you get this really like messed up like drama kind of just like there's so much rape. Like I think there's like 4, 5, and then there's just like the scene where they when they blackmail the cop to like get them protection, and they're just having sex with the hooker in the back, like just switching off. I was like, what movie
Came
am I
too quick
watching?
because he came too quick because the other 2 were talking.
Yeah. One of my favorite parts was like in the beginning with the telephone ringing. Because at first I thought like my TV malfunctioned or something, and then I was like, oh no,
I
it's
was starting to wonder. I was like, because
we
I
gotta
don't
pick up
know,
the damn phone.
I don't know how long that lasted. It felt like it was 5 minutes straight, like
Yeah.
of just the damn telephone ringing. I was like, oh my God, how long is this gonna go on for?
And then that whirring sound when he wakes up from the opium, like did like crazy. Yeah.
Speaking of, just
Um,
one of the most insane final shots of a movie I've ever seen is that smile he has when he just achieves peace and is on cloud nine and doped up, and he just grins.
yep. I mean, nobody does it like Sergio Leone. The shots in this are great. Like, even though it is a 3 hour and 45 minute or 49 minute movie, you do not feel like, oh, it's getting stale. You're like continuously caught up in it. Uh, he apparently the reason why he did this partially was because he had been offered to direct The Godfather and turned it down and regretted it a little bit, so he wanted to do a gangster movie, and this
One
is
hell
what
of a
he
movie
did.
he made.
Yep. Um, and yeah, what did you guys think? That's my 2 cents so far on it.
Sam.
Well, my biggest critique, I don't know if y'all felt this way, was the music was so quiet at moments. I felt like I needed to like keep turning the TV up, which kind of threw me off in the first half, and then I just checked out and focused on the movie. But whew, it's just like uncomfortable at parts and moments where you're just like, did that really just happen? Kind of like when the kid gets shot when they're younger and he runs up and just starts stabbing the shit out of Bugsy. And then the cop comes over and then he turns and just gets the cop too. I'm just like, fuck. Like, not the direction I expected it to go. And then the whole 60s plot with like his friend making a big name of himself and being worried that someone's going to kill him. And he's like, well, if anyone's going to kill me, you are the person that I want to do this and deserve to do this. And so I was like, this is an insane plot already. But then you go into that shot where that the garbage truck's going and he's walking and then he just disappears. And it's just like, I've never really thought about someone jumping into the back of a garbage truck to kill themselves, but that's an insane way to go out. And it
Well,
just,
there is a theory that like all the 60s stuff is like an opium dream.
Which I don't believe, even though
So
I think Leone may have said that might be possible, but
he said he was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense, and
yeah,
that would explain why he disappears behind the truck. Because like, also, I could not imagine killing yourself by jumping in a garbage truck. That'd be
that'd be
I ran
fucked
the heat
up.
back just so I could see if there's any like chunks of his body or shoe or something like going in there, but I didn't see it. Um, Crazy movie. Like, and epic is the great word for it because it's just so much goes on and it's weird that the intermission is 2 hours and 40 minutes into the movie because I was watching it with Stuart and I after the insane limousine scene and then he sees her at the train station and instead of saying or like waving to him she puts the blind down because she doesn't want him in her life and I literally looked at Stuart. I was like, man, I thought there was an intermission in this and then it literally the intermission popped up and I was like, oh cool. But it was a great watch. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It is not something I don't know if I can watch in its entirety in the future. I think there'll probably be scenes that I look up and pick out, but fantastic.
Yeah, this was like you guys said. Well, this one left me with a lot to think about. This I'm still kind of processing it. It was fantastic. I mean, like you said, Matt, no one does it like Leone. He's a god, truly. He was one of the gods of cinema. And this was the only one of his six like main movies that I hadn't seen. So I've seen them all now. And something I was very curious about was it's the only, non-Western that he ever made. And I was like so curious, so eager to see how his style translated to another genre, to the gangster genre. Like his lush cinematography and just, his attention to detail, like how that all translated. And it translated beautifully. I mean, I think this honestly might be his best looking movie out of all of them. I mean, from the first frame every shot of this fucking movie, you can tell had the utmost thought and care put into it. Every shot looks gorgeous. Shout out to his cinematographer, Tanino Delicali, who shot The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and Once Upon a Time in the West. He is just, whew, man, just every fucking shot just looks gorgeous. I mean, the lighting is incredible. And Sam, like you said, epic even for an epic, this is epic. I mean, just the whole thing looks massive. I was just thinking to myself, even during the simplest little shots, like, man, like, can you imagine having been a part of a production this massive? You know,
I'm
like
just
just this
thinking of when it
epic and
comes back
huge in
from the
scope.
intermission. It comes back from the intermission and he pulls that thing up and it's just like his head and then that top window frame thing. And it's just like that's one of the smallest shots, but also insanely interesting to look at and kind of gets you caught back into the story right away. And they use like the same location, but throughout the different time periods in a really interesting way. And like when he revisits the like pub area where all that shit went down,
Right.
and where like she brought him to when he was a kid, and it's just like the layers are insane.
Insane. And again, like, so the whole thing looks absolutely gorgeous. I mean, and again, just so huge. I mean, you really get a sense of just the epic scope that he's trying to go for because everything, whether it's the production design, the cinematography, the attention to detail in the costumes, everything feels real, everything feels lived in. It really feels like you're watching this like gigantic epic story. And that really it like you said, Matt, I mean I figured a lot of that would be the case since it's Sergio Leone, but I did also think it was going to be a bit more of like a straightforward gangster movie, and that's not really what he gave us. It's one of the most unique gangster movies I've ever seen in a lot of different ways. And so the thing that I'm still kind of processing, the last 20 minutes threw me off so bad. Like, not in a bad way, but just I 1,000,000% did not see that coming, that James Woods was still alive, and
Yeah.
that, I of all the possibilities of where I thought the story was ultimately building to that I had thought of, that never once crossed my mind. So knowing that that was where the story was building to, it's like, okay, I got to look at the movie a whole different way now. I got to recontextualize what the whole journey was about, the meaning of everything. And I remember saying to myself at one point, because it's very unconventional, which I wasn't expecting. Most movies, and when they released the like 2.5 hour cut originally, the one that bombed, when it first came out, they put the whole thing in chronological order. They didn't do the nonlinear part, and that threw me off. The nonlinear, like, because there's so many things, like the whole first part, even before you go to the flashbacks in the 20s when they're kids, that whole first like 40 minutes is like, there's a lot going on. They're jumping back and forth in between time periods. You don't have any context yet for what's going on. And I remember at one point saying to myself, I feel like this is a movie that when you watch it again, it's even better than the first time because once you know the full picture, because when you watch it for the first time, especially that beginning 40 minutes, you don't know really what's going on yet. I remember thinking to myself at about the hour mark, I was like, we're still kind of waiting for the plot to emerge because we spent so much time doing the flashbacks and doing the nonlinear and doing all this. I remember thinking to myself, I feel like if I were to watch this a second time, knowing the full context of the story and what everything means, I would appreciate it a lot more. I think it's one of those kind of like something like Memento, where it's like you enjoy it a lot the first time, but when you go back and watch it again, you're like, oh, I see. Like this almost kind of wasn't meant to be fully understood until the second viewing because you know, and so in that sense, it definitely took me off guard and it definitely went to a bunch of places I wasn't expecting. That being said, so that's why I'm still kind of processing it. That being said, I fucking loved it. I was in the whole way. I really, a movie this long, I was ready. I like hunkered myself down. I was like, okay, this is going to be a whole fucking task. Like, let's get this thing out of the way. And I barely looked at the clock. I barely looked at how long it was. I barely even noticed. It's just for an almost 4 hour long movie to fly by that fast, especially when so many of the scenes are so slow. and so deliberately just slowly paced for it to still hold your attention that much just through the atmosphere that they've built and just through getting you more and more invested in the story. Like that's skill. And he did that in Once Upon a Time in the West. That was very similar, where a lot of very, very slow scenes without a lot of dialogue, and it held your attention there too. So yeah, it's like still kind of processing the whole thing, but the more I loved it when I watched it, but the more that I've thought about it, the more I'm like, really, really appreciating it because knowing now the ending twist with James Woods, kind of the whole thing is about, because I did say at one point, because they make you think pretty early on that De Niro betrayed his friends and got them killed basically. And I remember saying to myself, I don't think they would reveal that this early unless they're planning on like that, unless they have a trick up their sleeve and they're planning on surprising us later on. And I was right. I still didn't expect that's how they were going to do it at all. But it's like, no, James Woods betrayed them. And, he's the one who basically put the idea in their heads of calling the cops. And he's the one who started shooting first and basically got them all killed so he could steal the money and run away. And it's like, wow, I really didn't see that coming. So it's about just the betrayal of friendship and among many other things. So, the more I've thought about it, the more I've taken the ending and looked at the rest of the movie beforehand through that lens, the more I'm like, oh wow, like I thought it was great already before, but looking at it through that lens, it's even better. And I'm not going to do it anytime soon, obviously, because it's a very, very, very long movie, but I can't wait to eventually watch it again, knowing the full context, so I can be like, I understand now, the picture is clear, and I understand even more, beyond just the
Secret,
surface level, you know.
secret's putting salt in your noodles,
There you go.
Yeah.
The
which is
secret
a
is ha
wild character name. Every time they called him Noodles, I was just like, oh shit.
the secret is making sure you have cock insurance.
Yes.
Exactly. Because if you don't,
That Burt Young, that was such a good fucking like they have like such a good side of like characters. Like, I mean, it's weird to think Joe Pesci working with Sergio Leone. Like, do you ever like think they had to have interacted? And
Yeah.
I just can't imagine what that would be like, I don't know.
It's one of those things where reading afterwards that there was a bunch of shit that got cut, it makes more sense because I remember watching the movie and being like, Jesus Christ, Joe Pesci and Burt Young are basically almost cameos. Like
Mm.
the movie's almost 4 hours long. They're in it for 5 minutes tops, maybe. I
which
mean,
is like a scene or two.
yeah.
Two, yeah, maybe two.
And then there's the scene later on where you see Joe Pesci going into the hospital and you're like, well, what's he doing? And they never really like say, you don't ever see him again. So I'm still not clear what that was supposed to mean, other than I think maybe that was just something that was supposed to be important but got cut. But and a couple other people like Danny Aiello had a bit of a bigger part and he was great. I forgot his name was in the credits, but I forgot he was in it until I saw him and I was like, "Oh shit, no way." And he was fucking going crazy, man. That was again, like you said, Matt, like the scenes with the cop, and them fucking the prostitute and all these other random scenes of just like, what the fuck? Just the surprise reveal of him taking the diaper off the baby.
Oh
And
yeah.
it being a girl instead of a boy, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was like
Where's my son? Bring my son in here.
He said, I'll burn this fucking building down.
Yep. And she just starts crying. Like, oh my God.
He's
Yeah.
yelling
when
at
you're
the
like, thank
kids, he's
God they
yelling at the
covered it.
wife.
They just
Yeah.
rip it open again, and it's like, God damn it, baby pussy.
See, I didn't look at the IMDb like radio like the parental guide for this, but if you look at the parental guide for this, everything is severe. I'm not
I
even joking. And
I
it
have
makes
looked
sense,
at
but
it and literally just the top one alone had so many that I didn't even read. I don't even think I got to the end of that one, let alone the whole thing. So I had a feeling there was going to be some fucked up shit in this, but even I wasn't prepared for it. Yeah, like that scene in the limo, Jesus Christ, that took me off guard. That was just
Why didn't the driver stop sooner? Oh,
that's what I was like kind of mad because he tries to give him the money and he just kind of like swats his hand away and leaves and I'm like, stop acting all self-righteous. You could have pulled the car over and stopped him and you didn't. Like, like you probably should have. You definitely should have. You know what I'm saying? But that was crazy. Again, it's like that too. Like watching it again, knowing that that's where the trajectory of their relationship goes. It gives you a whole different context for all the scenes they have beforehand. Where I don't know about you guys, but for me, watching it, all their scenes, you're thinking, oh, she's going to be the one to kind of bring out a softer side and help him, put his worst tendencies behind him.
He even literally is like, I'm not gonna cheat on her, and then goes on the date.
Yeah. And he says, right before the scene before it happens, he talks about when I was in prison, you were the only thing that got me through and the idea that we'd be together one day and shit. And it's such a touching scene and you really think that's where it's going and then fucking hell, they just throw that curveball at you. And so everything from beforehand, and obviously at that point, I mean, if you hadn't already, which I kind of had, but if you haven't lost sympathy for the character at that before then, you definitely do in that scene.
Even the robbery scene, it's already like, you are awful.
Yeah, that scene
He
was
already
fucked
raped
up
someone
too.
before that, so that was kind of when I lost sympathy for him. But
They
I was
literally said go easy on the girl. He did not go easy
he
on the
did
girl.
not
No.
go easy on the girl.
But then like the weird like kind of aspect that she was into it was
Hmm.
also odd. And then when she came back later and was like, "Oh yeah, my husband looks through the peepholes and watches me take 10 guys at once," kind of thing. It was just like, all right,
Again, just really bizarre shit like that, where you're just like, okay.
I'll line up and take their dicks out with the masks over their.
I made the joke multiple times. That scene and the scene where he's yelling at his girlfriend, I was like, well, good for James Woods. He gets to get paid to do this now.
I love the shot of him at the beach when he is called crazy by De Niro and he freaks out and just storms off and he's just walking back and forth and you see like the waves crash against his legs and he's just thinking and unsure and he's kind of out of not focused but like silhouetted in a sense and I don't know. It was very personal for his character, and that's where I was like, we get so much insight into his character, but it was like that's the big leap of like now you could kind of sympathize for his character and what he is trying to do to make a better life for himself and his friends. And so it just goes in some directions that I was not expecting at times.
For
Yeah.
sure.
I'm very glad that we finally got to watch this one because I probably wouldn't have watched it anytime soon, especially like, you know. So this was very good time, or very good that I watched it, I guess.
It was a good time, an emotionally disturbing time for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, very, very good time. And again, just I can't praise enough. I love the whole thing, but every fucking shot, I just want to like emphasize, like every fucking shot is just like
I
it,
did the meme of Leonardo DiCaprio from Once Upon a Time where he points at the screen when they had the shot of the city and I was like, that's the DVD cover.
I was waiting because I know that's the iconic shot from the movie is him like skipping in front of the bridge. I was like, it's funny because I was getting up to go to the bathroom and I paused it right when that started. I was like, oh shit, no, that's the iconic shot. Sit back down and watch it. Yeah, that there again, like among the epics, it is special because it is, I mean, epic with a capital E, that's for sure.
I know trusting IMDb is a hard thing, but I find it very interesting that it does not list Once Upon a Time in the West as the first movie to this. It lists Duck You Sucker. And
Because apparently they're all a trilogy somehow.
Well, they
they
are,
are
but which I
I don't
don't
know
I
how
don't get
Ducky. I
that.
haven't seen Ducky Sucker yet, so I can't actually say.
It's not, yeah, that's, I mean, they,
But I
Leone,
just assume those two movies go together and I haven't seen Ducky Sucker, so I'm just like cutting that out.
it's Duck-You-Sucker is not part of, like, Once Upon a Time in the West and Once Upon a Time in America are thematically similar for sure.
That's what I
Beyond
was
just the title, but Duck-You-Sucker really has nothing to do with, it's a fantastic movie on its own, but it has nothing to do with the other two. I mean, really, I think his
what I
explanation for why that was part of the trilogy is each movie focuses on like a pivotal moment in American history. but Duck You Sucker is mostly set in Mexico, so I don't get how that makes sense.
Well, could have done
And
What
once
is
upon a
now
time.
New Mexico, I guess. No, I'm just kidding.
the two main characters are Mexican and Irish, so there aren't even any American characters in the movie.
Oh no.
So I
I'll
don't
have to see
know.
that. I got it on DVD. I never watched it.
I would recommend it. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's good to
But
know.
yeah.
Well, that is Once Upon a Time in America. Definitely check it out. It is a underrated classic because I feel like I haven't really heard anybody talk about it. Like people don't really bring that one up that often.
I mean, I hear about it a lot. I mean, that's always one of those movies that I've heard everyone say it's one of the greatest movies of all time. It's one of the best gangster movies ever. It's not I think because it wasn't a big hit when it first came out. It's not like The Godfather or movies like that or Goodfellas where a lot of people know about it. It's more just film people, whereas those movies are more known by mainstream audiences. But no, I've always heard nothing but the highest praise for this movie, so I was very excited to see it. But either
I mean, I
way, and I
definitely
guess
heard good
maybe
things.
maybe some people don't want to watch it because it's so fucking long, but yeah,
That's yeah, because I feel like I've heard good things about it, but I just don't hear a lot of people bring it up as much as they should, in my opinion.
oh, definitely.
But,
I mean, it's amazing.
yeah. Well, moving on to another epic from another country. I could be talking about either of them.
Yeah.
Um, I will be moving on. Well, we should. I was thinking move on to Once Upon a Time in China.
Okay. Okay.
Another story with big themes.
Very big themes,
Sam,
including
take it
the
away.
Chinese James Bond. Once upon a time in China, there is a man named Wang Fei Hung. This man is a simple man. This man is a righteous man. And this man knows exactly what needs to happen to save his people. Fuck the Westerners, fuck your 13th aunt, and then go fucking beat the shit out of some goddamn Americans and Brits.
But
And that is
Sam, we're the Westerners. Are you telling us to go fuck ourselves?
exactly,
Oh my
exactly.
goodness.
Except for
Well, okay.
Blasphemy.
we're about to all cosplay as Jet Li, Porky, and Bucktooth, because Porky and Bucktooth are two of my favorite characters, and they're the comedic element in this, which I guess I might as well just go back to the plot. But basically, China's hitting that moment of expansion into foreign people coming into the country, taking control of aspects of it, and also trying trade and all that kind of stuff. But they are being oppressed by the sheer amount of control that people from America and Britain have, and how they'll like set up areas that are forbidden for Chinese people to go to, even though it's Chinese country, and how like they're taking these goods from these farmers to make their Western style food, but completely misusing the ingredients that these farmers are using for cultural importance. And so basically, it's that kind of battle that he must undertake to save his people, his town, his 13th aunt, which I still didn't really understand. I don't know if y'all did,
I just
why
thought that
she
was
was
hilarious when
13th
he said
aunt.
it.
I
I
don't know.
just I thought it was. I
He
mean, I
might
know
be
there's
13th
actually. I'm
uncle.
sure there's like. I guess he's got like a lot of. His mom's got a lot of sisters.
Maybe.
Yeah,
They got a.
I wasn't
They
quite
go by
sure
age.
what that meant, but it wasn't like that important. So I was like, okay, she's just an aunt, I guess.
And it also focuses on this other character, Lung Fun, I think his character name was
Boone.
Fun,
Like
who is
that.
kind of enamored by the ideas of this foreign aspect to familiar faces, pun intended. And so he kind of is under the wing of um
He's under the wing of Wing
yeah.
because Porky Wing.
um but yeah, it tons of action, tons of like subtle humor that is like I think very much in the translation. I don't know if it's a lot of that stuff was like that. Um Hark Sui, His directing I felt was very on a big scale. There's a lot of movement, a lot of stuff going on in the sets, like with ladders and people fighting, and like how Porky gets his weapon stuck up in the sign and he jumps up and just like flops down on the group of guys that were charging him, or like where he picks up a pistol and then just the second all this giant group runs towards him, he points it at him and then they turn around and run away. And so like they do a lot of physical kind of comedy in some aspects, but also seriousness and also just intense sheer badassery. Um, that part where all the powder got in their eyes was really fucked. Um, and I felt like it was very calm, but also explosive, and that's something that's always refreshing when you get into a movie. It keeps you interested and wanting to support these characters. I just was very upset at the end when he fully goes full on Western, and I'm just like, what the fuck? This goes against the whole point of the goddamn movie to a degree. But okay. We're
They
sitting
said,
on
"Fuck it,
gold, all
and beat
right?
him, join him."
But I'll let y'all talk. I don't know how y'all felt about it. The music was fantastic. I really got, especially from the get-go where they're all running on the beach and that and the credits are playing and that just intense kind of poppy song is playing.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was great. Like, the action scenes were wonderful, like you said. Like, it's a very grand, like scale is very shot grandly. There's like some fight scenes that were like seemed to be shot with like almost like a extreme wide lens that I really liked, or like a kind of anamorphic kind of thing. I thought it was really cool. Definitely, you know, great choreography. Yeah.
I don't know if y'all had this or noticed. There was occasionally a scene where like it would just freeze and then fade to black.
There were a couple scenes like that, yeah,
That
that I
took me out of
noticed.
it a little, but I don't know why that happened. But
I don't remember it happening too many times.
there was definitely the time where she was like directing him and the dude was on the roof and he was sticking upwards.
Hmm.
And then there was a scene towards the end during like the big fight. It just kind of faded and then picked up like pretty
I
much
seem to
right
remember
after.
one of the fight scenes in the marketplace, I think, did that, but I could be
Hmm.
wrong. But yeah, so this one was for me, again, much like America, it was not what I was expecting it to be. Um, I thought it was going to be something more along the lines of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, where it's like in ancient China and it's like super like the wuxia like stylized, like they're flying through the air and fighting each other and shit. And it was more of like a kind of grounded like historical drama. It was directed almost like a period piece, and it also but it was a combination of that and a lot of like really crazy high energy like fight scenes, so that was cool. I appreciated, like, it's the only movie I've seen, like martial arts movie, that I mean, I guess Ip Man kind of, but not like this, where it really felt like, I don't know, this kind of big like period historical drama with like the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon kind of fighting. And I liked the blend of those two styles. And I really enjoyed the movie. And again, I wasn't expecting it to be set in like the 1800s and for like, there to be like American and British characters and the whole
I found it really interesting that Jet Li was dubbed because he couldn't speak the language that they were filming in at the time.
he was dubbed for the what was it, the Cantonese dub.
Yeah.
And the one we saw, that was his normal voice,
Oh,
but
okay. Okay,
in
I thought
the
they were speaking Cantonese and he was speaking Mandarin and they had to dub over.
I'm pretty sure
I
I
didn't even
read
check my
like
subtitles when I was watching it. Honestly, I should have
Hmm.
just kind of let it go.
yeah, it was weird for me because it took me a minute to get used to the fact that even when characters were speaking English, the subtitles were still on screen. Like, I'm not used to
Hallelujah.
having to. It was weird.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. But I enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot of fun. It was, oh my God, the action scenes were just so great. Jet
Especially
Li, as
diner one
usual.
where like he's throwing all the utensils at him and he just catches him in the blanket and then he just throws him on the ground and then keeps fighting.
And it's funny because it reminded me of Return of the Dragon, from Bruce Lee, where that movie it's a Bruce Lee movie, so you're expecting him to throw a punch in like the first minute of the movie, you know. But he deliberately in that movie makes you wait like a half hour before there's a fight scene. And in this one, there were like a few fight scenes, but no big ones until the scene where the with the play. I remember that was kind of like the big scene where they're shooting everybody in the crowd and stuff. That was the first like big like Jet Li is just fucking everyone up, and that's a good like 40 minutes into the movie. And, you know, and then from there on, you get so many more great ones. But again, I liked it because it's like, yes, this is a martial arts movie, but it's also, we're trying to tell like a historical drama here. So we want to lay that on first, and then we'll, you know, make sure you're paying attention. And then we'll get to the fight scenes. Um, and my God, like, the fight scene, all of the fight scenes with like the rival master guy were phenomenal. Like the first one where he fights the dude next to the bonfire was incredible. The first time he fights Master Wong was incredible, and then the last fight scene that they have on the boat is one of the greatest I've ever seen. I mean, just like the choreography in that scene is fucking amazing. The direction is great. And you can tell those are like real punches that they're throwing and
Yeah.
real kicks and shit. I mean, I don't know who the other guy is, but he's incredibly good as well. Really, really phenomenal last fight scene between the two of those guys. And yeah, something one of my favorite, honestly, parts about the movie was the supporting cast. Like I got really attached to all those characters. Like obviously it's funny because and Master Wong is, you know, you like him, but at times you kind of get pissed off at him. Like he's not a perfect protagonist. Like when he
Yeah.
calls her like a Western hag or whatever he says, I remember getting really pissed off. I was like, okay, that was way out of line,
Yeah,
bro. Like I get that you're pissed off about your fan, but there's no need for that kind of language. And he says something later like he calls Bucktooth So he calls him an infidel. He's like, speak English, you fucking infidel. I was like, Jesus Christ, man, come on.
Oh,
And but you do like him, and you do you like the journey he goes on where he learns that yes, it is worth defending, you know, his culture and preserving traditions, but also he has to acknowledge at the same time things are changing, and we kind of have to do both, like preserve the traditions, but also adapt to the modern world, or else you get left behind, which I think is why he wears the suit at the end. He's just like, okay, yeah, like this, I can accept this, you know, I can wear a suit. Like I'm not
Had that shit on.
say what?
Said he had that shit on.
That's right.
I wonder if he's gonna be wearing that in the second one though, or if it's going straight back to his regular outfit.
I love
Um,
the glasses.
Yeah, the glasses I really liked. And
yeah,
that scene where he was like, I just arrested a criminal. Will God be or Jesus be my witness? And he just walks away, and that dude's like, well, shit.
yeah.
Yeah, got a point.
Yeah, that and just all of the like Bucktooth, so you get attached to him. I really liked Porky. He was probably my
Yeah.
favorite character in the movie. And 13th Aunt, you know, I just felt bad for her because poor girl was getting like abused in every scene she was in towards the end. I was like, that motherfucker with the scar on his face, the gang
Yeah.
leader guy. I fucking just that was cathartic when they finally killed him and they threw him in the furnace. I was like, God, good fucking riddance. And but I like again, all of the characters are fleshed out, like the dickhead governor guy, and Foon was a great character. Him like ultimately deciding to do the right thing in the end and betray the other master who was very selfish. That was honestly like the strongest part of the movie to me was just the characters and getting attached to them. And um, I thought that was good. And obviously the fight scenes were also great. But
I found it interesting that I know we haven't gotten to the third one yet, but based off the sheer impossibility of those events unfolding, I don't consider that a part of this, but it's interesting that like the first movie and this one are really grounded for a movie that's once upon a time, which implies like a fantasy kind of elevated kind of experience. And that's where definitely you have those insane flying kicks and whatnot. And so I guess there is like fantastical element to this one, but I really appreciated how, like you said, it was like a period piece in a way, and it was just like I felt Earth. So
Yeah, fun time overall, I'd say.
Oh yeah, 100%. Uh, well, moving on. If unless you guys have anything else to say about China, China in
Um,
general. We're
yeah,
talking
thank
TikTok.
you,
okay,
thank you
I
for letting us
like
keep. Thank you for letting us keep TikTok for a little longer.
I know,
yeah.
right? Well,
Even
we
though I
got to
don't
thank
use it.
that.
Say what?
I said we got to thank Trump for that.
Oh, well, I guess so.
In TikTok,
I mean,
as Fox News calls it.
What did you say?
You mean TikTok, as Fox News calls it. Oh.
well, moving on to another fun time with very fantastic elements and stylized violence. Jackson's pick, Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Yes.
Mexican, you talk about it, or Mex you can't.
I Mexi-can talk about this one. But yeah, this yeah is the final entry in Robert Rodriguez's Mexico trilogy, which started with El Mariachi and continued with Desperado and ends with this one. And so basically the plot of the trilogy as a whole is there's a wandering mariachi who is nameless, because this is basically Robert
Big
His
Rodriguez's.
name is The.
yeah.
Yes, yes, they say that in this one. Um, and yeah, this is basically Robert Rodriguez's Dollars trilogy. So fittingly, he has no name. They just call him El Mariachi, or as you said, yes, the. His name is the. But yeah, and he is just, a guy who fucks up drug dealers. He keeps his guns in his guitar case, and he fucks up drug dealers. In the first one, he was just a mariachi looking for work, and they killed his lady boo. And then in the second one, he found a new lady boo, and at this point, he's trying to kill the drug dealer who was responsible for the first one's death. And then in this one, they killed his second lady boo, and he's got to get revenge for that. So yeah, his wife from the second movie Desperado, Carolina, played by the fine as motherfucking hell Salma Hayek, was apparently before this movie even starts killed by a general, a corrupt general,
And their
and
kid. Or was that
and
just
his daughter
Yeah,
was killed as
daughter?
well. Yes, and so now the mariachi, he's
He
depressed. He
didn't
has
care
nothing to
about her.
live. Say what?
He didn't care about her. He just ran to her Selma Hayek's
He
body and
sure
cried
I
over
mean,
dead.
if Salma Hayek is alive, he can make another daughter. He can't
Yeah,
make another
fair,
Salma Hayek.
fair, okay.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah, he sure did. But his wife and daughter are killed by a general. And so he's now the mariachi. He's depressed. He has nothing to live for. And who of all people comes to him but Johnny fucking Depp? CIA agent Johnny Depp. And he gives him an offer saying, "Look, fam, here's how it is. I want you to kill Amber Heard for me." No, he says, I want you to kill fucking this general, and I want you to help stage a coup to overthrow the president of Mexico because the balance, you see, it's all about the balance. The balance of power has to be stabilized. So they got to kill the president of Mexico. In exchange for helping do that, he will let the mariachi kill the general who killed his wife and daughter, who's going to be helping with the coup. So, um, yeah, this one, I'll turn it over to you guys first. What did you both think?
Sam, you can go first.
This movie is hilarious. Johnny Depp wearing the CIA shirt, pretending to be an undercover CIA agent, and then having the shirt that says "I'm with stupid" and the arrow is pointing towards the dick. Two banger t-shirts. And then the third one, which you barely see, is that little chihuahua with the text, but wonderful. And then his little marijuana like belt buckle. This movie's absurd. And I love how kind of a bitch they make Danny Trejo in this movie. Like he is
He
a
goes out
gimp.
like a bitch, that's for sure.
Exactly. And then Mickey Rourke also kind of being a little kind of wuss. He was
Mickey
so
He
Rourke,
just
he
goes
goes
out
out
for
standing
range.
up for himself, though. He goes out standing up for himself at least.
I have a question. I might be crazy and was just like it was late and I was out of it. There is a scene where it's the perspective of his dog with the mic right going to listen to the conversation.
I don't
I
remember
just
that
watched
at
it and I
all.
can't remember a scene
I
like
don't
that.
remember that at all.
What the fuck? I swear to God. He gives him the microphone, which he puts on the dog's collar, and he walks in and he sets the dog down, and it
Who, Johnny
goes
Depp?
and listens in on a conversation and spies for him. And that's how that dude gets a lot of information from Defoe on get taking him down and whatnot. And when I watched it the other day, it wasn't in it, and I was confused as fuck.
Nope.
I
Yeah, I don't remember
remember the
that at all.
dog, but I
Maybe
don't
the
remember
extended.
that.
There's maybe an
It
extended
could have
cut
been
that
an
you saw.
because I didn't watch my DVD version this time, and so and because I couldn't find it, but maybe my DVD had an extended version of the movie. I don't know.
Oh, by the way, Sam, there is no like, at least on I read in mine on Apple TV, and there is no subtitles for any of the Spanish.
Oh,
It
so
just
that
says
wasn't.
speak Spanish. I don't know if Jackson, did you notice that too? I didn't care because I could follow it.
I don't. No, yeah, there were subtitles in mine. Yeah.
For the Spanish,
Yeah.
it didn't just say speaking Spanish because that's all mine kept saying, and I
Well,
was
there were
like,
subtitles in the movie.
Yeah, that
I
that was not in the version that I watched.
neither mine. I was like
Thankfully,
literally,
I'd
I
seen
mean,
this movie, so I knew like what was going on. But at least on the DVD, it has like yellow text that is like
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I had. Yeah, was
mine
the yellow
doesn't didn't have
text.
that for some reason.
Because I
A weird,
remember there
weird.
was a scene where Willem Dafoe tells them to chop the piano player's fingers off.
fingers off. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
I saw that. There was that one, but then
yeah.
there's a lot of things that I saw that just didn't have
Oh, well, I mean,
any
because
subtitles.
they did that, I think, in Desperado too, where there were
Mine
parts
didn't
where they
have
had
any
the
of it at
text
all.
on the screen
Oh.
when you were supposed to understand it, and then parts where it just said, yeah, speaking Spanish or something.
Because I
But
didn't mind it personally, but I could figure, it was
The
right,
pretty
only
most
simple.
time
of
that
it is
upset me
just
was with
very
the stuff
simple.
with the president. And like when Antonio was playing the guitar, just listening in on him having that dinner and he was talking to those people, it seemed a little important at that moment to know
Oh,
what
well, see,
was.
I saw that. They're saying like, are you going to tell him it's his last meal or whatever, and like sing us a song or yeah. Well, I didn't know there were different versions without subtitles and stuff. I just watched mine on Amazon. But
But yeah, I liked it this time around the most, I think. I
Part
don't know
where
if Desperado or this is my favorite, but it was
Johnny Depp
hilarious.
hits the button and the bullfighter's belt electrocutes him
oh
into
God, that was so
the
crazy.
bowl.
Honestly,
And
Johnny
the whole,
Depp was just going wild in this movie. The part where he shoots the cook,
That was
yeah, well, I
so.
mean,
dude
He
is too
said,
good.
"I'm gonna go back there and I'm gonna shoot that cook." And I'm like, "Is he actually gonna shoot the cook?" That motherfucker did it. He got right up and shot the cook.
I was
He has so
thinking
many good
way
lines.
too
Or like
hard
when
about that.
Cheech, huh?
I was thinking way too hard about that. Was he like doing this because he was trying to find the best version of this meal in Mexico, but
Sam,
then
what are you
also
doing?
killing them because he doesn't want it to be so good that it gets like culturally appropriated and turned
Sam,
into like an actual thing?
Sam, why are you thinking about this like it makes any sense? Why are you thinking about anything from this movie like it makes sense?
Yeah, yeah.
What are
Because
you
like
doing?
I honestly, you know what I thought about it as a kid, at least. I don't know about this time around, but I used to think like, oh, I just ate the best like food in Mexico. Now I'm gonna kill the cook, so nobody else can ever have this food again
Well,
because
he
it's so
kept
damn
talking
good.
about he
But it's
kept
mine,
talking
yeah.
he kept
He
talking
kept
about
getting
like the
killed.
balance of power, like
That's what I was thinking.
I have to make
Like
sure that everything is balanced or
Like
whatever.
the food
So
is shitty enough to where Americans don't want it, but he's finding the best food in the country and experiencing that and then killing every chef that he approves of their version of that meal
well,
is how
again,
I
that's why he
put
kills
it
the
in my head.
bullfighter later because he's like, "Oh yeah, you're really good, but I'm gonna give the bull a chance." Like he was weird about like the balance or whatever. But
I thought he did that just to win the bet because then he sent Danny Trejo to go
oh,
collect the
you're
money.
right. Yeah, there's that too.
That's what I thought was
You're
that
right.
one for that one.
Again,
That is the
we're
balance of
talking about
power.
there's no point in talking about anything in this movie like it makes any fucking sense because it
It
doesn't.
is a lot of fun though. It is a lot of fun. Like I had so much I
The
was
part
enjoying
where they're like
when he
swinging on the
said,
building chain together and then he jumps on the thing and she gets caught on the wire and just like whipped around. I love that
So
part.
we
The
need
whole
like
thing
a John Woo style game, like Stranglehold, like where you can jump in the air with two guns and go slow mo, but Desperado, like El Mariachi style.
Um, yeah, so my journey with this one was interesting. So El Mariachi is one of my like all-time favorite movies. I love it to death. And so it's weird. I never had seen the other two. I think because partially I was nervous that it wouldn't live up to the first one, and also I knew they recast the mariachi with Antonio Banderas, who I love to death, but I was like, I can't imagine anyone but Carlos Gallardo playing the mariachi because his performance in the first one was just so good, and he really like owned that character. So I don't know. I was kind of like I always wanted to see the other two, but I just never did. So I knew when I picked this one for the podcast, I was finally gonna have to take the journey. So I rewatched El Mariachi, and that's just still really it's just I love it. I think it's a masterpiece. I think it's his best movie. I think it's just wonderful. Everything about that movie I just love. Desperado. I liked the first 45 minutes of Desperado. I thought it had a very strong start. And then as the movie went on, I kept trying to convince myself it wasn't getting dumber and dumber. And by the end, I was like, okay. But it was fun. Like I mean, the plot kind of in the second half, I couldn't care less about, but because there wasn't much of one. It was kind of just a rehash of the first one, not done as well. But the action scenes were phenomenal in Desperado, so that was a lot of fun. And granted, I also had a very hard time focusing again because Salma Hayek. The second shin of the movie, I was like, okay, where am I? What day is it? And so on. But in spite of it being kind of just a retread of the first one, and her character was kind of just a not as good version of Domino from the first movie. It was still fun enough. The dumb fucking telenovela plot twist at the end of the guy being his brother was stupid as fuck. That was when I was like, okay, I can't justify this plot anymore. Like I've been trying to make excuses for this plot, and I can't at this point. It's just dumb as fuck. It's already dumb the idea that in the first movie, Mako was clearly the boss. Like you never got the sense that he was one of the bosses. Like he was the boss of that organization. So the idea that like, oh no, there's another boss and he's the one that I gotta kill. It just kind of seemed like Rodriguez didn't know what to do and just wanted to, I don't know. But so then I get to this one, and this one was pretty much the same as it was like Desperado on acid, basically. Where pretty much the same way I felt about that movie, but on acid, where it's like, okay, this plot is absolutely ludicrous. I mean, nothing that is going on makes any sense, is based in any logic
The
of any
folks like
kind.
face surgery but body swap, like, oh, we're gonna kill my double and make them think
There
that
was
it's
no
And then
reason
it
for
didn't even
that to
work.
be in the movie.
yeah, then it
Yeah.
didn't even work.
And he
It
just ended up
didn't. He's just
disfigured.
bandaged up the
Standing
rest of
there
the
with a
time.
wrapped up face.
It was
Yeah.
just there's so especially towards the end there were so many subplots, and the
I,
mariachi, there were like huge chunks of the movie where he wasn't even in it. There was a part towards the end where he showed up after like not being on screen for like 20 minutes where
It was mainly Johnny Depp for a while.
I literally
Johnny
After his
Depp
said
did
time
a
get
lot.
taken
yeah,
out.
they were trying to give Johnny Depp more screen time obviously, but like
I like it when he
but
said savvy. I was like, they threw in the Pirates reference.
yeah.
They
Um
had to.
but and this came out the same year. So
Yep.
but I literally
See,
said to myself out loud at one point, like, "Oh yeah, you're in this movie. Like, I forgot this is supposed to be the last movie in your trilogy, and you're basically a fucking supporting character in your own movie." And you know, it literally, and most of the way through, I thought it was very well directed, just like Desperado. Very well directed, very, very, very fun, well-directed action scenes. I was having a blast with the action scenes. I was like, this is dumb as fuck, but man, I'm having a fun time at least with the I mean
I love the part where the kid's leading him and the dude's following them and he's like gets the wrong left. It was the kid's
yeah.
right.
Eh,
The
I
kid's
remember
right,
saying to
not his right.
myself, how fucking incompetent. The guy is blind and you still can't fucking shoot him. Like, come
But that
on,
that
guys.
spin around where he shoots him in the shoulder and he spins and like gets him
Yeah.
out, like that's just fucking badass as shit.
Yeah, with the fucking
Yeah.
blood coming
No,
down from his
one of
eye.
the favorite part. He dies two times, kind of.
That's three
He comes
times.
back to life. Well, then it comes back to life because he's like he puts the hand up for the kid, so he's like still alive. I don't
Yeah.
know. I think unless
That
I missed something,
that
but
third arm thing is just also I
I still
really
don't get what the hell that was.
It was
What
Oh, it
was?
makes
prosthetic
people
arm.
think that you're like eating, so you can hold the gun underneath the table and shoot him.
Oh,
Yeah.
And
okay. Because
so
every
that's
time he took
why
that off, I had no idea why he had that on. But okay,
that's where he was like that spill just cost you your life, and then he kills Cheech.
I
okay.
love the I couldn't find a briefcase small enough
Yeah.
for $10,000 and then hands him the Clash of the Titans. And what was the other one that he gave? He gave somebody else another like lunchbox full of money, but was it Hellraiser? I was
Oh
trying to
no.
look at him because I was like, oh, what's the lunchbox he gives
And then
people?
that's how he gets even Mendez is he has his arm behind his back, but he has the fake arm on, so she thinks he's like
Hugging
unarmed.
him, whatever.
True.
That
Um,
was so dumb too, because I was just like, he just lays back down. Like he literally lays down
Yeah.
both times. He doesn't even,
yeah.
he doesn't like, he just
But
back on the floor.
so like this one was like, and frankly, the plot of the trilogy was already kind of lost in Desperado. So when we got to this one, I was like, okay, I'm not really like expect, and I'd heard this was the worst one of the three, so I was like, okay, I'm not really expecting this to be like a fitting conclusion to the trilogy or to his story, especially since like I, I think that was a fucking bitch move, killing Salma Hayek before the credits. I think that was an incredibly bad decision. And especially when, you've got, first of all, she's third build, or if not second build, and is on the poster. So I imagine audiences at the time were probably pretty pissed off to learn that she's only in a couple flashback
I
scenes.
definitely thought that when he goes to the church, that's going to be him like going to go get her, and she actually lived, and it was just their
Yeah,
daughter that.
I was convinced they were going to do a plot twist where she's still alive somehow, but no, she's just dead. And again, like it's not like I was super attached to her character in Desperado, but I wanted them to like get me more attached in this one. I wanted them to do more with her. And just the idea that like that was a big part of his character development in the second movie was meeting her and finally finding a new love. So the idea that just before the credits even start, she's dead. It was like Alien 3 that killing off all the supporting characters from Aliens. It's like, why? Why would you do, especially when like the scene where they're yeah climbing down the hotel window and running from the gangsters. I was like, this is what the movie should be right here. Like this should be the main plot, not all this overly convoluted, ridiculous government assassination bullshit. I was like, this is what it should be. You're doing too much, Robbie. You're doing too much. But at the same time, I do think he, it seemed to me like he wasn't like El Mariachi and Desperado. Um, Obviously it's like over the top fun, but like he was still trying to tell like a dramatic story with those movies. This one, I don't think he was. This one, he's just like, I'm just going balls to the wall with this one. I'm just like, just in the credits, just seeing it say shot, chopped, and scored by Robert Rodriguez. I was like, okay, I think I know the vibe already. We're not taking this seriously. We're just here for a good time, you know? Like,
Yeah.
and that's what it was. It was like, yeah, this is ludicrous, but he's such a good action director, and the action scene, even like in the last 30 minutes, when the plot is so fucking off the rails to the point where it was actually kind of like making me mad, um, I still didn't care because I was like, the action was just so much fun. It was just like, okay, I really am entertained by this big epic battle, it's a lot of fun. So it had that, like, each movie in the trilogy has its own merits, even if, the negatives outweigh the positives or the story gets lost. Like, even this one, as ludicrous as it is, definitely has its merits, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, when I was watching this, I was having such a good time that I was like, I need to rewatch both the other ones because now I don't like I can't remember if I like this one the most just because of how ridiculous it is. Like I kind of like just saw the balls to the wall like craziness that they just went on. Like Mickey Rourke just carrying around a chihuahua.
Uh,
I
and then
love
like
like
tucking it behind his back.
yeah. Like there's just so much small like humor. I kind of want Robert Rodriguez to make just a straight comedy one of these days, like Four Rooms kind of vibes, like his segment of Four Rooms, but just straight comedy.
Well, what I want to see really bad now, I want to see the Machete movies because that to me is kind
You have
of
not
like,
seen the Machete movies?
no.
At least the first one? Oh wow. I thought you at
I
least
want to
saw
see
the
the
first
first one because that to me seems like him genuinely trying to like intentionally do, like this like intentionally over the top nonsense, but it's self-aware. I mean, this is self-aware, but Machete seems to me like it's
Oh, it's super
completely
self-aware.
self-aware. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And Machete 2 is
yeah, I've heard
just
that one's not as good, but
it's
yeah.
so ridiculous. It is not as good, but it's just even more ridiculous.
Yeah. Um,
Like, ugh.
but yeah, so it's to me, the story, I don't know, because it's funny because for most of the movie, I wasn't like mad at it because I was having a fun time with I thought it was well directed. I thought the action was a ton of fun. Um, as if Salma Hayek wasn't giving me enough problems, Eva Mendes was giving me even more. It was funny watching Willem Dafoe do his goofy ass accent saying,
Yeah.
"Do you know what I say?" I'm like, oh, for God's sakes. But and all kinds of stuff. And Ruben Blades was one of the only characters who actually had a real through line with his character. So I appreciated that at least someone because most of the arcs in the movie were absolutely ludicrous, didn't get resolved, had no point. It was just stupid. But, so at least he had something. But like the very last scene pissed me off because for most of the movie it was like, okay, this is only like kind of loosely related to the other two movies. Like, this is just kind of stupid. He's barely even in it. I mean, really, he's a supporting character in his own movie. So it's like, yes, this is part of the trilogy, but it's not really. So it's like, okay, I'm just having fun with what it is, not really like looking for like a satisfying narrative. But then in the last scene where they're trying to like give it like a poignant last scene of like, what do you want? To be free. And the shot of him walking down the highway with the guitar case one last time. That's when it pissed me off. That was when I was like, fuck you. Like, you just no, just stop trying to make this a serious ending to this character's journey. Like, I don't know. And just it's just like seeing that scene, realizing like, oh wow, this is the last scene of this trilogy. And we spent the last 2 hours doing all this goofy nonsense. Like, man, we've come a long way down. Like as fun as this was, we've definitely come a long way in the wrong direction with this trilogy. So, you know, what can you say?
I love the scene with the taxi driver and the coup's going on, and he's like, "I'm not gonna take you. Can't you see the whole government's like
Then
being over?
listen,
Like I can't see you, mook fuck or something like that." And then the dude like turns around and you see his like eyes within the glasses.
then he's like, "Well, hear it, motherfucker." Yeah.
Weird as fuck though that like they get out and have a whole kind of like moment, but the dude doesn't drive away until the very end of their scene of him and the kid putting on like the wrong glove on the wrong hand and whatnot.
That
That's
kid,
taxi
I
driver really
remember when they got out of the taxi, I was like, why is that kid still with him? Like, run away, kid.
More dough.
because he's in all three
For the money.
movies. So he is the real.
A version of that kid is in all three movies, yes. So that's the through line.
Yeah. But so that kind of wraps up our not kind of that wraps up our Once Upon a Time episode. I do have one more thing to say because I forgot about it during America, and I forgot. I actually wrote this down. It's the only thing I wrote down. Did you guys notice in Once Upon a Time in America that they had Yesterday by the Beatles for like a split fucking second?
No, did they really?
They did it. Yes. He literally, it's like when he's looking in the window and they transform to the 60s and they go suddenly. And I was like, and they do like the guitar chord from Yesterday. And I was like, is that more? No, that's not Morricone, but they're not doing the full song either. So
It
I'm
turns
like,
into that whole orchestral like rendition that turns into something else. So
I straight up didn't notice that. That's wild.
yeah, no, I
How
was
fucking
like,
random.
yeah,
I know, I was
it
like,
caught
did
me off guard a
somebody
little.
else use the Beatles?
It was like right when De Niro gets back as the old version and he is looking inside the shop.
Yep. So I just
Leon
wanted to
is
bring that
like,
up because that was the one thing the only thing I didn't mention that I wrote down.
Leon is like, I love the Beatles. I want to hear the Beatles song. And all
Imagine
speaking,
yesterday in like the Good and the Bad and the Ugly, or like a Beatles song like Helter Skelter or something like that.
yeah, something like Rocky Raccoon and Once Upon a Time in the West.
Ugh.
But
But
speaking of which, I also did want to mention for America, shout out to the GOAT Ennio Morricone, who crushed it yet again
Beautiful music.
with that.
apparently he finished it about a year and a half before it was even done. So
That's
he
what I
probably,
saw, yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
Because they took so fucking long to film it.
yep.
Heard. I
But
really liked all threes. music. I don't know, but it's kind of a given with the third one because he plays guitar. So
Yep.
not enough in this movie though.
Yeah,
Not enough.
he all of a sudden can play guitar again in that one. That was what was weird to me. Like, was that not weird to anyone else? Like in the second one, he played the guitar in the dream sequence at the beginning, but he couldn't actually play it in real life. And here he's just strumming on the thing, and I'm like,
I
okay.
didn't remember it being a plot point in the second, but it's been on the
That's why I
screen
need to
more
rewatch
times.
yeah, because I didn't remember that either.
And does because in El Mariachi he shoots him in the hand
And
at
yeah,
the end, and
Yeah.
so
I do remember that.
he can't play the guitar anymore. And in Desperado, at the very beginning, there's that big sequence where he plays the guitar, but
Hmm.
it's a dream sequence. And for the rest of the movie, he's still talking about like I used to be a mariachi, but I can't play the guitar. And in this one, all of a sudden, he can just play again in real life, and I'm like, all right, that's weird, but
Interesting.
Yeah, I gotta say, I gotta fuck, I just lost it. Sorry. Somebody texted me, I lost it. Oh, Jackson. I wanted to know what you thought of Quentin Tarantino and Desperado. That's the
thank
that's
you
the one
so
thing I wanted to
much. Thank you so much for bringing that up because when he showed, I remember his name was in the credits, but I'd forgotten. And so when he showed up, I was like, "Oh dear Jesus." And yep, it was exactly what I would have expected. I loved his scene. I loved just like it was one of those things where it's like, okay, so were they just filming him during a break or
Yeah,
it doesn't even
you're
really feel
talking
like
about that pissing on the bar, pissing everywhere,
yeah. I just bet those guys back there that I could piss all over your bar and you'd laugh and wouldn't get upset. And then he just gets fucking killed in the next scene, which was just like, okay, hi, Quentin, bye, Quentin. Just coming in and telling a funny story and getting shot. Like that sounds about right. It
Yeah.
was very entertaining.
Uh, all righty. Well, we'll see everyone next week. Did you already stop recording?
No.
Nope.
Oh, okay. I will see everyone next week. And yeah, that's been a good 3 for 3. I think we are 3 for 3. I
What
would say, well, I don't know, Jackson, about you for Mexico, but because you don't like love
two
it,
and a
but you
half for three. We'll
Two and
say
a half.
that.
Yeah.
2.5 for 3.